Michael jolted awake in the midst of the silent night. He scanned the luxurious yet cold bedroom with drowsy eyes, the faint glow from the electronic clock beside the bed marking it as 1 a.m. He reached out, intending to touch his beloved wife, but all his hand encountered was a chilling emptiness. Michael's heart pounded fiercely as an ominous premonition suddenly overwhelmed him. He sat up abruptly, his eyes frantically searching for the familiar silhouette of Sarah in their spacious apartment nestled in the lavish center of Manhattan. Yet the bedroom lay silent, devoid of any sign that she was present at this hour. Michael grabbed his phone, its screen illuminated with a text message sent just an hour ago from his wife's number. "Tonight, I have to work an extra night shift at the hospital. Go to sleep first. My love. Love you so much." Michael frowned, a surge of anxiety overtaking him like never before. Recently, Sarah had repeatedly mentioned her night shifts, yet Michael, whose deep love for his wife was matched only by his intuition, could not shake the feeling that something was terribly amiss. Tonight, his unease had reached its zenith. Unable to bear the mounting tension, he decided to call the familiar switchboard at Presbyterian Hospital, where his wife worked. After several long, drawn-out rings, the voice of a night shift nurse finally answered. "This is Presbyterian Hospital. How may I assist you?" "Hello, ma'am. I'm Michael Anderson. I apologize for calling at this hour, but my wife, Dr. Sarah Anderson, is scheduled for a night shift in the internal medicine department tonight. Yet I haven't been able to reach her. Could you please connect me?" he pleaded. There was a pause on the other end before the nurse replied in a slightly puzzled tone. "I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson. I just checked the system, but tonight Dr. Anderson is not scheduled for any shift. Perhaps you've mistaken the schedule." Michael was stunned. It felt as though his heart had plunged into an endless abyss. He mumbled a thank you before hanging up, his hand trembling uncontrollably. His mind raced with hundreds of questions. Where is Sarah at this moment if not at the hospital? Why would she lie to him? What could compel his wife, the sweetest, most gentle, and genuine soul in the world, to hide something from him in the dead of night? Unable to remain still any longer, Michael hastily dressed, threw on his coat, grabbed his car keys, and left the apartment. He drove like a lost soul along the deserted streets of New York, the vast, starlit night concealing his turmoil. The flickering streetlights danced like the doubts swirling within his mind. Almost without thinking, he activated the location service on his wife's phone. A small dot lit up the screen. Stationed, motionless, at a renowned, luxurious hotel on Fifth Avenue, a haven reserved for the city's elite and most powerful. His heart twisted in agony. Could Sarah really be there? What was she doing in such a lavish hotel at this hour? The car came to a stop before the hotel. Michael stepped out and looked up at the skyscraper, its lights twinkling in the night. His legs felt heavy as he entered the opulent lobby, striving to remain composed as he politely yet firmly asked the receptionist, "I need to see my wife, Sarah Anderson." "Which room is she in?" The courteous receptionist refused to divulge any private details, deepening Michael's sense of entrapment and despair. He stood silently in a corner of the lobby, the pain and confusion gradually eroding his strength. Then, from down the corridor, he heard a familiar set of footsteps echoing. Turning around, his heart nearly stopped as he recognized Sarah's figure, walking beside a refined and powerful man he immediately recognized. Charles Bennett, the head of her, a renowned figure in Wall Street's financial circles. They paused before the elevator. Charles bowed slightly and whispered something to Sarah, who only nodded silently, her face etched with sorrow and intense tension. Michael stood rooted to the spot, each shard of pain tearing at his chest as he watched his wife step into the elevator with another man. He nearly collapsed onto the gleaming hotel floor. Michael lost track of time, his world collapsing right before his eyes. The woman he had loved with every fiber of his being, the one he had vowed to protect and cherish all his life, was hiding something so painful from him. A torrent of questions swirled in his mind. Was Sarah betraying him? What could drive her to hide something so dreadful? And why was it with a man as powerful as Charles Bennett? That night, Michael returned to his apartment in a state of near madness. He sat in the living room, staring intently at their wedding photos hanging on the wall. The images of once joyous smiles now seeming more distant than ever. Silent, sorrowful tears streamed down the face of a man who had once been strong and proud amidst the dazzling lights of New York City. He knew that he could never find rest again, haunted by the most painful, unanswered question. What did my wife do with her boss in the hotel tonight? And do I have the strength to face this terrible truth? Michael stood motionless outside the luxurious hotel on Fifth Avenue, each biting gust of New York's cold night slicing into his flesh like a sharp blade. The sky overhead was pitch black, not a single star daring to emerge, as if even they feared to witness what his heart was about to endure. The yellow streetlights cast their glow upon the desolate road, illuminating Michael's dazed expression. He glanced at his watch. 12:30 a.m. At this hour, he should have been peacefully asleep beside Sarah in the small apartment they once regarded as their own paradise. But tonight, everything had changed. They had met during their university days in Boston. Back then, Sarah was an intelligent, vivacious, and passionate young woman with dreams of becoming an exceptional financial manager. Michael, with his romantic soul and steady nature, had always given her his deep love and unwavering trust. Throughout 5 years of marriage, they had weathered countless storms together, from the early challenging days of job hunting in New York to living cramped in a tiny Brooklyn apartment, scrimping every penny of their salary to build a future. Yet now, all those beautiful memories felt like a dagger, plunging deep into Michael's heart as he gazed upon the opulent hotel door before him. Only minutes earlier, the image of Sarah entering the hotel with her boss, a famous, powerful man, still burned in his heart. He had never imagined he would endure such agony, a heart seemingly crushed, breath growing heavy, as every once beautiful memory transformed into an unspeakable pain. Michael recalled how Sarah had changed so much recently. Her work had become increasingly demanding, the pressure mounting as she had been promoted to senior executive assistant to the chief financial officer of a large conglomerate on Wall Street. At first, he had been immensely proud of her success, proud to see Sarah shine at elegant corporate events, and proud to hear colleagues extol her competence and professionalism. But that pride gradually turned into suspicion as Sarah began coming home late, sometimes even staying overnight at the office. When he had asked, she would simply smile gently and say, "Work has become so stressful, I have to try my best. Please understand me, dear." Michael chose to believe her. At least, he tried to convince himself to do so. He would tell himself that Sarah was a strong, honest woman who would never hurt him. Yet the secret late-night calls, the hurried messages that compelled her to leave a room, and the growing distance between them slowly awakened doubts in his heart. Tonight, those suspicions crystallized into a stark reality more vividly than ever before. Michael closed his eyes, trying to banish the image of Sarah entering the hotel with that man. Yet the harder he tried to forget, the more each detail burned into his memory. Her gentle smile, the gaze that had once belonged solely to him, now fixed on another. Negative thoughts swiftly overwhelmed his mind, squeezing his heart as if it were being crushed. How long had she been betraying him? Could it be that Sarah no longer loved him? What had he done to drive her to seek happiness elsewhere? A cascade of questions whirled in Michael's mind, yet he found no answers. Heavily toward the car parked by the roadside. As he sat in the driver's seat, his entire body trembled. Peering into the rear-view mirror, he saw his pallid face, his eyes reddened by tears poised to fall. Michael gripped the steering wheel tightly as hot tears began to stream down, each drop carrying the full weight of his anguish. "Sarah, why are you doing this to me?" The words trembled from his throat, weak like a plea in the cold, unforgiving night. He bowed his head, tears falling onto the steering wheel, as despair and helplessness enveloped him. Michael had never imagined that he would lose faith in Sarah, the woman he had loved and trusted more than anything. Yet in that darkest moment of his life, he realized that his trust had shattered and his heart was breaking into countless fragments. Before him lay an entire future. But at that moment, Michael saw no glimmer of hope. Everything he had once believed in, everything he had ever hoped for, had crumbled, leaving only emptiness, coldness, and an indescribable pain. Part 3. Michael resolved to secretly investigate Sarah's frequent business trips to Paris and Montreal with her boss. At first, he tried to convince himself that these were merely ordinary work journeys, nothing to be feared. Yet the seed of suspicion in his heart grew like an unhealing wound, festering until a clear answer could be found. He began to scrutinize every subtle movement of Sarah upon her return from these travels. Michael noticed how Sarah averted her eyes from his, how she would slip into deep contemplation, as if hiding something profound. Each evening, when Sarah believed he was fast asleep, Michael secretly listened to the mysterious phone calls she received in the dead of night, each sound piercing his heart as if stabbed by 1,000 needles. One night, as Sarah slept soundly, Michael silently approached her desk. With trembling hands, he sat down and opened Sarah's laptop, his eyes fixed on the dimly lit screen, his heart thundering as though he were standing at the edge of an abyss. Michael wondered, did he possess the strength to confront the truth he so desperately sought? After a few minutes of searching, Michael discovered a separate folder, one that Sarah had secured with a password. He attempted to enter dates of anniversaries, birthdays, the name of the pet they once cherished. Yet all his efforts were in vain. Overcome with despair and exhaustion, he sighed deeply, leaning back in his chair, his mind a barren wasteland. But then, his gaze fell upon a small diary that Sarah habitually kept on a shelf. Rising cautiously, he retrieved the diary and turned its pages with utmost care. The first pages contained nothing more than mundane work notes. However, the deeper he read, the more Michael uncovered unsettling details. Sarah had meticulously recorded large financial transactions from a renowned bank in Paris. He was stunned to see enormous sums transferred into her personal account. Michael's heart seemed to freeze, his mind reeling at the stark, undeniable truth. He stifled the surge of anger and pain and continued to flip through the pages of the diary. On the next page, there lay an invoice from an opulent hotel in the heart of Paris, a hotel famed for its privacy and secrecy among the elite. The bill was made out in Sarah's name, yet it also listed the name of her companion, none other than Sarah's boss. Michael felt as though a savage blow had struck his chest, a pain far beyond any he had ever endured. Trembling, he sank to the floor, his head resting against the cold, unyielding wall, desperately trying to steady his chaotic breathing. A torrent of questions flooded his mind like a nightmarish film. Were these frequent business trips merely a perfect facade for a clandestine affair between Sarah and her boss? Were those vast sums of money connected to their secret liaison? In the days that followed, Michael lived as though he were but a hollow shell. Sleep eluded him, food lost its flavor, and his thoughts were haunted by the newly discovered truth. Whenever he gazed into Sarah's eyes, he saw nothing but a thick, impenetrable mist obscuring the woman he had once loved with all his heart. Michael lacked the courage to confront Sarah directly, yet he knew that he could not evade the truth forever. One evening, when Sarah announced yet another business trip to Montreal with her boss, Michael decided that this would be his final opportunity to confirm the truth. Silently, he booked a plane ticket, packed his luggage, and followed Sarah without her knowing. As the plane descended onto Montreal's soil, Michael's heart grew heavy with both fear and despair. He trailed Sarah to a grand hotel and noted that her room was right next door. For hours, Michael sat in a dark room, straining to catch every small sound emanating from the adjacent room. Yet only a profound silence responded to his vigil. Finally, unable to bear the torment any longer, Michael opened the door and stepped into the corridor, standing before Sarah's room. Gathering every ounce of courage, he gently knocked on the door, his heart pounding wildly, clinging to a fragile hope that perhaps it was all a misunderstanding. The door swung open, and before him stood Sarah, her face pale and filled with terror. Behind her, In the dim light of the hotel room, Michael saw Sarah's boss, seated comfortably, his gaze exuding arrogance and challenge directed squarely at him. All doubts evaporated. Michael, in a wave of agony, realized that the truth he had long tried to avoid now stood glaringly before him. He stood there, desolate, with no more excuses for the wife he had once trusted unreservedly. The secrets stretching from Paris to Montreal were no longer solely his personal torment. They marked the definitive end of a marriage he once believed would endure forever. After trailing Sarah to the Fairmont Hotel in Montreal, Michael decided he could no longer evade the truth and must confront it head-on. His heart pounded relentlessly, each beat as if trying to shatter his chest. As he stepped into the opulent lobby of the hotel, each of his footsteps echoed against the gleaming marble, a chaotic symphony of anger and fear over what might be unfolding behind the closed door of a hotel room. He proceeded toward the elevator, his breath catching in his throat from the mounting tension. The elevator doors opened, and Michael stepped inside, pressing the button for the floor where Sarah resided. The elevator moved quietly, yet each passing second felt endless. When the doors opened once more, he found himself facing a long, dim corridor lined with closed doors, the soft glow of the lights hinting at a deceptive tranquility that masked darker secrets. Michael checked the room number on his phone once again, took a deep breath, and approached Sarah's door. With hesitation that lasted only a second before being overcome by resolve, he knocked firmly. Inside, the sound of raised voices erupted. A gruff voice barked, "Sign it quickly. Sarah, you have no other choice." Sarah's familiar voice trembled in reply, laden with desperate pleading. "Please, I can't do this. Don't force me any longer." At these words, Michael lost his composure. He pushed the door open with force. What he witnessed rendered him speechless. Sarah was huddled on a chair, her face ghostly and her eyes swollen with tears. Opposite her stood the imposing figure of her boss, his expression cold and angry. Spread across the table before them lay a multitude of documents, files that Michael instantly recognized as related to perilous financial schemes. Both occupants of the room turned to look at Michael, shock etched clearly on their faces. Sarah hastily rose, her eyes a tumult of relief and fear as she beheld her husband. "Michael, what are you doing here?" Michael swiftly moved to her side, pulling her close behind him as if to shield her, demanding, "What is happening here, Sarah?" Her boss, the once dignified man now exposing a devious nature, curled his lip into a cold, mocking smile and declared, "Did you really think your wife was completely innocent? She's in too deep now. I'm merely helping her extricate herself from this mess." Sarah shook her head vehemently, tears streaming down uncontrollably. "No, it's not like that. He's forcing me. Michael, I haven't done anything wrong. Please, just believe me." Michael stared deeply into his wife's eyes, his gaze laden with despair and sincerity that seemed to tighten his very heart. In that moment, he realized that the woman he had cherished for so many years was not the traitor he had suspected, but rather a victim ensnared in a dangerous web from which she could not escape on her own. He turned to face the man, his voice rising with indignation. "Do you think you can exploit my wife to shield yourself? We will not allow you to get away with this." The man laughed scornfully, unmoved. "The two of you are powerless. I've orchestrated everything perfectly. If Sarah refuses to sign this document, both of you will pay a very high price." Clutching Michael's hand tightly, Sarah's voice trembled as she pleaded, "I can't sign. I know this is wrong, but if I don't do as he demands, I fear for our safety." Michael squeezed her hand even tighter, his voice resolute and filled with unwavering strength. "Sarah, we will never succumb to these threats. I will protect you at all costs." Her boss rose, adjusting his suit with a menacing air, his eyes dark with threat as he passed by. "Then you will both regret it. Don't say I didn't warn you." As the door closed behind him, Sarah collapsed into a chair, weeping uncontrollably in Michael's arms. He held her close, his heart aching with both pain and a fierce love, mingled with remorse for having doubted her. Lifting Sarah's face gently, he wiped away the tears from her cheek, his tone tender and full of affection. "I'm sorry for not trusting you from the very start. From now on, I promise to stand by your side. We will overcome this. Sarah, I promise. Sarah nodded weakly, a glimmer of hope breaking through her despair. All I need is for you to trust me. Michael, just trust me. Michael clutched his wife's hand with unyielding determination, ready to shield the woman he loved more than his own life, regardless of the perils that lay ahead. Sarah's boss was not merely an ordinary corrupter. He was a figure of immense power, his influence so vast that he could manipulate the entire international financial system, from the dazzling splendor of New York to the majestic allure of Paris, and finally to the enchanting yet treacherous streets of Barcelona. With intimate connections in the worlds of finance and politics, he orchestrated clandestine transactions worth millions with ease, and anyone daring to defy him was swiftly eliminated or thrust into a fate beyond resistance. The moment he sensed Michael and Sarah plotting against him, he unleashed a torrent of chilling threats. Anonymous messages laden with ominous warnings, and midnight phone calls that left them trembling in terror began to haunt their lives. He vowed to utterly destroy them, to strip them of their honor, shatter their careers, and annihilate the peaceful life they had so painstakingly built over the years. Yet these threats did not make Michael falter. Instead, they stirred within him a fierce fighting spirit, deepening his resolve to unearth the monstrous crimes he suspected were unfolding. Michael knew that yielding would offer them no sanctuary in the days to come. Thus, with a heavy yet determined heart, he and Sarah resolved to fly quietly to Barcelona, a city whispered to hold the most critical evidence against this formidable foe. Barcelona, with its ancient cobblestone streets, splendid cathedrals, and throngs of ever-present visitors, soon revealed itself as a labyrinth of hidden dangers for Michael and Sarah. No sooner had they set foot at El Prat Airport than they felt the unsettling sensation of being watched. Unfamiliar, piercing gazes seemed to manifest everywhere. Unsettling men appeared repeatedly at the hotel where they sought refuge. Sometimes, they even caught fleeting shadows lingering, staring intently through their window in the deep hours of night, stirring in them a profound unease. Fully aware of the peril that shadowed their every step, Michael and Sarah began to alter their lodgings incessantly, renting different cars day by day to elude prying eyes. Every minor move was orchestrated with the utmost care, each step taken with a cautious heart. And yet, in the midst of these moments of relentless tension, the bond between them deepened. Their love became a luminous force, empowering them to brave every fear and hardship. Days in Barcelona passed under the weight of unyielding suspense. Gradually, Michael and Sarah began to unravel threads leading to vital evidence. They trailed secretive transactions, forged contracts, and even uncovered living witnesses hiding in the quiet alleys of the ancient city. Each step forward sparked both hope and dread. In the midst of their investigation, they nearly fell into a deadly trap meticulously set to ensnare them. A frantic chase through the narrow lanes of the Gothic Quarter ensued, a breathless pursuit from which they escaped only through their wits and sheer will to survive. In that life and death moment, Michael realized his love for Sarah burned more fiercely than ever, while Sarah revealed a willingness to sacrifice everything for his sake. At last, they amassed the crucial evidence needed to expose the crimes of this powerful man. Yet, as they prepared to leave Barcelona, a horrifying truth unfolded. He had learned every detail, and now lurked in the shadows, awaiting them. Their eyes met, and in that silent, charged moment, their hearts beat in unison, knowing that the coming struggle would be the most arduous battle of their lives. Would their love and indomitable spirit be enough to weather the storm, or would they ultimately be crushed beneath the weight of his dark conspiracy? The answer, they felt, lay just ahead in the depths of the night. In Barcelona, atop the balcony of a luxurious hotel, Michael and Sarah gazed out over a city awash with brilliant lights. Yet even as the radiant glow illuminated the night, it could not banish the haunting shadows of dread and unease that had crept into their hearts. Michael gripped Sarah's hand tightly, feeling the chill of her trembling fingers, a silent testament to the fear that lay beneath. Only hours later, an unspeakable truth unfolded, a revelation so harrowing that neither could have imagined it. The mastermind behind all the treachery, The architect of every vile act and the source of Sarah's deep, unspoken anguish was none other than her stepfather, Mr. Richard Harrington, a renowned Canadian billionaire who had long masqueraded as a devoted guardian, a benevolent protector who showered them with love and lavish gifts. When that name echoed through a desperate phone call from the investigator Michael had enlisted, both were struck as if by a blow. Sarah could scarcely believe her ears. Her eyes widened in disbelief as bitter tears streamed down her face, washing away the trust and love she had once so unreservedly given to the man she had always regarded as her true father. "How could this be?" she whispered, her voice trembling with deep sorrow and betrayal. "He always loved me, always treated us so kindly." All Michael could do was hold her close, trying to offer a sliver of warmth to soothe her shattered spirit. Yet the truth, relentless and unyielding, remained unchanged. Slowly they began to piece together the fragments of their past. The odd business trips Sarah had taken, the secret meetings, the moments when she was forced to sign strange contracts at her boss's behest. Every piece now coalesced into a grim mosaic of exploitation. Mr. Richard had covertly manipulated her, using her as a pawn in money laundering schemes and other illicit ventures designed to expand his power and wealth. Sarah felt the deepest betrayal, a wound inflicted by the one person she had trusted above all. She recalled the times Mr. Richard had visited them in New York, his gentle smile, the expensive gifts, the time he spent with them, as if he were a true father. Now, those cherished memories revealed themselves as nothing more than a grand illusion, a perfectly staged performance to conceal his ruthless, hidden agenda. Michael knew that confronting someone as formidable as Richard was no simple matter. He was not only rich beyond measure, but wielded influence through an extensive network and a capacity to manipulate events far beyond their wildest fears. Yet Michael also understood that they could not remain shackled by fear and subjugation. "Sarah, I will not allow him to hurt you again," Michael declared, his voice resolute and filled with unwavering determination. "We will expose him, no matter the cost." Looking deeply into Michael's eyes, Sarah felt the strength and trust he offered. Despite the peril that lay ahead, she realized that there was no other path but to stand and fight, not just for herself, but for the love and trust they had built together. They set about devising a plan to confront Richard Harrington, seizing every opportunity to gather damning evidence of his crimes. They knew they were up against a force both powerful and perilous. Every step had to be taken with meticulous care, every word measured with precision. In the tense days that followed in Barcelona, they quietly collected information, sought out allies, and strategized to unmask Mr. Richard in a grand event soon to be held in Paris. Gradually, Sarah reclaimed her inner strength, steeling herself to confront the man she had once loved as a father, now revealed as her greatest adversary. The battle that lay ahead was not only for the restoration of peace, but also to protect the love and trust they had so tenderly nurtured. They understood that one single misstep could bring everything crashing down. Yet with hands clasped and hearts united, they knew they must rise and face this cruel, unyielding truth. Together, Michael and Sarah gazed up at the Barcelona night sky, their souls alight with resolve. The true confrontation had just begun, and this time, they vowed never to retreat. Michael resolved to confront Sarah's stepfather directly during a lavish gala in Paris. In the days leading up to that monumental event, Michael and Sarah scarcely slept, devoting every waking moment to meticulously studying every minute detail to ensure their plan unfolded flawlessly. Sarah burned the midnight oil, poring over stacks of documents. Her eyes, red from sleeplessness, shimmered with unwavering determination. Michael never left her side for a single moment, his hand ever holding hers, a constant reminder of his unconditional love and support. That afternoon, Paris shone in a breathtaking blue, a city of beauty so profound it stole one's breath away, a stark contrast to the tumult of emotions swirling within them. The renowned hotel at the heart of the city, host to the evening's grand affair, glittered under the glow of the waning sun. Everywhere, luminaries from the spheres of finance and international media emerged from sleek, luxurious vehicles, their laughter and chatter oblivious to the scandalous revelation about to unfold, one that would etch itself as one of the most sensational in the annals of global finance. Michael and Sarah arrived at the hotel in the early hours. Adorned in elegant evening attire, Sarah shone radiantly, though beneath that exquisite exterior lay a tumult of tension and anxiety. Michael's hand never left hers, his gentle grip a silent promise of solace and protection. As they stepped into the grand auditorium, Sarah's heart began to race. An overwhelming nervousness threatened to engulf her as her gaze frantically searched for her stepfather. There, in a quiet corner of the room, the man stood, engaging in animated conversation with an air of brazen confidence. Sarah bit her lip, repulsed by the hypocrisy he exuded. Sensing her inner turmoil, Michael tenderly caressed her hand and whispered, "I'm right here, Sarah. We will overcome this." Minutes stretched into what felt like an eternity. Finally, at precisely 9 p.m., Michael and Sarah advanced toward the stage. With each step, they grew more resolute and determined. The audience gradually fell into a hushed silence as every gaze converged upon them. Michael, calm yet commanding, took the microphone and began to speak in a deep, resonant tone. One by one, he laid out the irrefutable evidence of the misdeeds committed by Sarah's stepfather and her boss. Videos and images cascaded across the large screen, exposing the dark financial conspiracies that had funneled millions into illicit coffers. A collective gasp of astonishment and murmurs of disbelief rippled through the crowd. Sarah's stepfather's expression transformed from shock to fury. He lunged toward the stage, his shouts echoing, but security swiftly intercepted him, sparking a brief scuffle at the center of the auditorium. Amid the chaos, he vehemently denied every accusation, his angry threats slicing through the charged air. Stepping forward, Sarah joined Michael on stage, her eyes alight with a fierce resolve, locked onto her stepfather as she declared, voice trembling yet resolute, "You have no right to threaten us any longer. I once lived in fear of you, but tonight, I draw the line. I will not let you hurt anyone else." The moment her words rang out, international police forces swept in, swiftly arresting both her stepfather and the scheming boss lurking behind him. Cold metal cuffs clicked around their wrists, signifying the final chapter of their nefarious plots. Tears streamed down Sarah's face, a mingling of relief and the agony of past wounds. Michael wrapped his arms around her, whispering assurances that it was finally over. The auditorium erupted in a thunderous applause, the charged atmosphere brimming with emotion, as many found themselves overwhelmed by the deep love and extraordinary courage the couple had displayed. Gazing tenderly into Sarah's eyes, Michael softly proclaimed before everyone, "Sarah, from this day forward, I promise to protect you always. We have weathered every storm, and from now on, I will never let you shed a tear again." Sarah, her eyes glistening with tears of both sorrow and joy, returned his gaze. In that moment, their embrace spoke volumes, a union healed by trust and resilience. That evening, as they departed the hotel, Paris itself seemed to celebrate with them. The city's luminous streets and the gentle strains of distant music whispered silent congratulations to their hard-fought triumph. In the quiet exchange of glances, they knew that though their hearts still bore scars and the past lingered, love and trust would guide them to healing. Beneath the enchanted Parisian night, hand in hand, they stepped boldly toward a future unburdened by past pain, determined to seek a happiness they had fought so dearly to reclaim. Michael and Sarah chose to leave behind the clamor and chaos of their old lives, setting their sights on Quebec, Canada, to begin anew. In this tranquil, picturesque town, encircled by verdant mountains and gentle rivers, they found a welcoming embrace that promised to soothe the wounds of their past. The first days in Quebec were anything but easy. Arriving amid a biting winter, with snow blanketing every street, trees in their slumber, and life unfolding at a languid pace. A stark departure from the frenetic rhythm of New York they once knew. Each moment offered a pause for introspection. In the serene silence, Michael and Sarah finally had time to truly listen to their own hearts. And, more importantly, to each other. They rented a modest wooden house on the outskirts of town, its windows offering a view of a frozen lake in winter and fields blooming with wildflowers in spring. The house was small, yet it radiated a warmth that promised refuge from the betrayals and doubts that had once threatened to tear them apart. Together, they gradually adapted to their new life. Michael found work in a quaint second-hand bookstore in the town's center, spending countless hours in conversation with fellow bibliophiles. Sarah, drawing on her years of financial expertise, began advising local residents on budgeting and wise investments. In the quiet evenings that followed work, they cooked together in their humble kitchen, sharing small, intimate details that had been lost in the hurried days of New York. Slowly, Sarah opened up about the immense pressures and fears she had long concealed, while Michael confessed the sorrow and pain he had suppressed under the weight of suspicion. Each shared word felt like a stone lifted from their hearts, bringing them closer and fortifying the love that bound them. As winter gradually yielded to the gentle arrival of spring, with its radiant fields of blossoms and tender sunlight seeping into every corner of Quebec, a fresh morning found Michael and Sarah strolling along the lake's edge. In that serene moment, Michael suddenly knelt, retrieving from his pocket the small box he had kept hidden for so long. "Sarah," he began, his voice trembling with emotion. "We have endured many storms together. We have lost our way and hurt each other. Yet love has led us back to one another. I want you to know that I love you more than anything in this world. I promise never again to let any secret come between us. Will you be my wife once more?" Tears streamed down Sarah's face, this time tears of pure joy and relief. With a trembling nod and a radiant smile akin to the spring sunshine, she whispered, "Yes, I do." Gently sliding the ring onto her finger, Michael embraced her, their joy and relief echoing in the quiet moment. They had lost everything at one point, but that very loss had revealed the true worth of their love and trust. Now, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, as long as they remained united in trust and love, they would always find their way back to each other. Their life in Quebec blossomed with peaceful days filled with laughter and a deep, abiding bond. They strolled through town in the afternoons, watching the sunset behind the mountains, savoring each precious moment as it unfolded slowly and meaningfully. 1 year later, on the anniversary of their renewed vows, they stood by a crystal-clear lake, hands intertwined. Michael leaned in to whisper in Sarah's ear, "Thank you for coming back to me. Thank you for giving me a second chance to love you." Sarah met his gaze with tender affection and a gentle smile. "Thank you for always believing in me, for never giving up on us even in our darkest times. I love you, Michael, forever." In that heartfelt embrace, their hearts beat as one, a silent vow that they would never again lose one another. Life might take away many things, but they had reclaimed the most precious treasure of all, their sincere love and absolute trust in one another. In this life, we cannot avoid misunderstandings, moments of doubt, and challenges that seem insurmountable. Every human being experiences times of weakness, questioning both oneself and those we hold dearest. Yet no matter what, always remember that love and trust are the two magnificent sources of strength that enable us to overcome any obstacle. No matter how colossal, life is inherently filled with complex situations and moments when the truth may be shrouded by what we see on the surface. Not everything unfolds as we imagine or as our eyes perceive. Sometimes, the truth is concealed behind unfortunate misunderstandings. Therefore, we must learn to remain calm, to listen and feel with our hearts instead of hastily judging by what our eyes see or our ears hear. Misunderstandings can occur in any relationship, but the way we face and resolve them is what truly matters. In the face of every upheaval, before every monumental challenge, always keep a deep-seated belief in your heart. The one who truly loves you will not betray you easily, and the one who truly trusts you will not be quick to doubt. As long as we face things calmly, as long as we are a little stronger, a little more compassionate, every problem can be resolved and every wound can be healed. True love is not merely about the gentle, tranquil days spent together, but also about the times when you weather the storm as one. It is precisely those hardships and challenges that allow love to grow stronger, deeper, and more meaningful. When you have found someone willing to hold your hand through every trial, cherish that person with all your heart and be their steadfast support. For in this life, nothing is more precious than having someone who is always there by your side, trusting and loving you no matter what. Life will never be short of surprises, but each surprise is an opportunity to understand one another better, to deepen empathy and love. Every challenge is not an ending, but a chance to prove that our love and trust are powerful enough to overcome everything. Always live sincerely, love with all your heart, and trust completely, for only then can we truly find genuine happiness. When you have found the one your heart belongs to, hold their hand tight, be stronger, be more forgiving, and always trust in the love that both of you have nurtured. No matter how turbulent life may be, as long as we continue to love and trust each other, no force, no hardship can ever tear us apart. If you love this story and feel its profound, sincere message about love and trust, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more dramatic, moving, and meaningful stories. Let's together spread the beautiful message of love, trust, and hope to everyone around us.